Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome to The Shield Within.
Welcome.
Hey, we're back. This is our second part of a two-part series. We have Dr. David, Mr. Hat, Mrs. Hat, and Eric and Shannon from Windmill Wellness in the great state of Texas. So if you caught our first episode, I know you're on the edge of your seat waiting for the 15th of the month to come around to get this one here. So real quick, we're not going to waste a lot of time with work, but if you're on Facebook, stop by our Facebook page, Facebook.com/ShieldWithin, www.shieldwithin.com, punch the coaching, if you want to talk to Dr. David, or you can look up, we'll do the plug here for Windmill Wellness.
Exactly.
Because as we learned at our last episode is that Ohio sucks when it comes to dealing with officers' mental health. And Texas is on the cusp of things down there. You guys do a really great job. So without further ado.
All right. We have a lot of stuff we have yet to go through, so I'm really interested in like moments when decisions get made, like the moment each of you decided to become a therapist. I'm suspecting those are two very different stories. So if you could each talk about that maybe a little bit. How did each of you, what happened, what was it that turned you from wherever you were into, hey, I want to become a therapist? How'd that happen for each of you?
So for me, it was in my second treatment center. I had a therapist. She's retired now, but she was my therapist, and she just had I had some experience. This was my second treatment facility. I tried outpatient. I'd been an inpatient once before. Right. And she was so open and honest and authentic. In her story and how she presented information and helping me to understand what it was she was trying to convey to me, that I actually can pinpoint it to one specific moment. And please excuse my language for a minute, but I'm sitting in her office and I remember telling her, if I can ever unfuck my head, yes. I think I want to do what you do, but I think I want to do it for cops. And of course, I still had 13 plus years of active addiction ahead of me, but the seed was planted. Mm-hmm. And so when I first got into recovery, you go to meetings and I'm sharing what we call our stories of experience, strength, and hope. And I found that I had a passion for that. When I could share something in a meeting that helped somebody else, it really lit me up, and in a really good way. And so about 18 months into my own recovery, I decided to go back to school with a very specific goal in mind, which was I wanted to get the degrees and the licenses that I needed in order to treat veterans and first responders. And I've never looked back. So that's kind of how that happened for me. I knew that I wanted to give back and help other people the way I had been helped.
Doing service for others is such a powerful gift to yourself. Mm-hmm. And you do so much for your own recovery when you're involved in some kind of service, volunteer, whatever, working with other people. I kind of get the impression, Erica, that it came to you and then it had to marinate for a number of years before it became...
Well, I wasn't done being miserable yet.
Yes, exactly. That's one of our themes, too.
You
just need to hurt more.
So, here's the thing, though. The seed was planted, and we're helpers by nature.
Yes.
you don't get into these career fields to make a lot of money. So if you're not a helper by nature, of course, the other side of that is we tend to struggle with being the helpee. So I had to get over all of that in order to get the help that I needed. And it's one of the things that I help people with when I'm working with them is to be able to accept that they are just as deserving of help, if not more so than the average citizen, because of their service and what they've done for their country and communities. So helping them to look past that. But, when I was ready, I was ready, and I knew exactly what population I wanted to work with. And I love that I'm able to do that. But I think that's a struggle for a lot of us, especially those of us that end up coming out of these career fields, is who in the hell am I?
Yeah.
If I'm not officer, sergeant, detective, so-and-so, I certainly don't want to go back to being the scared little kid that kind of drove me into this profession. So who am I?
Exactly. The whole process of determining and clarifying your identity just seems to be an absolute part of recovery. At some point.
So even in a 12-step program, right, that 12th step, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. That 12th step, even though I was sharing at meetings and that felt good, that 12th step was really my first foray into connecting with such a huge part of who I was.
Yes.
Which was being able to help other people.
Yes. Exactly.
And so I call it rudderless boat syndrome. That's not a diagnostic term. You're not going to find it in the diagnostic manual, the DSM-5. But we typically are a group of people that don't do very well when we're just kind of bouncing around in the water with the waves carrying us to wherever we're going to end up. We don't tend to do very well in those environments.
Yeah.
So I needed, and most of the people that I work with, if not all of them, we need a purpose. And so a lot of times that's part of what they get when they come to Windmill. When they're working with me, one of the things that I look at is, how do you find your purpose? Okay, that's fine. You're a helper, but you don't have to be a cop or a firefighter or a paramedic to do that. So even once they get over into clean living, we help them find jobs. And part of that is assessment and determining what fields would be a good fit for them. And oftentimes I find that my veteran and first responder clients that are now out of those professions actively end up doing like what I did. They end up going into working in addiction, or they find other ways to give them a sense of purpose, which is so critical in recovery. It's critical for any human being.
Yeah. They end up in another helping profession almost all the time. Yeah.
Well,
for me, it was not an overnight thing. My husband and I struggled, and we went to see a therapist. Oftentimes, as living with a cop will make you do, is the shift work, 2 young kids. I was also not a typical alcoholic. I was what was referred to as a binge drinker. So I would drink maybe once a month, maybe every 3 months. But when I drank with a purpose.
Wow.
It was definitely to change the way I felt. And it did affect the relationships around me, because I'm Irish and I took it to that level. We went to see a therapist trying to work on our marriage, and she just had no concept of, he's also past military experience, what going through some of those things are like. And so I sat at the computer. It was time for me to find something to do. I came from a background in business. I didn't want to be in a tiny little cubicle inside all day, and I took 3 career aptitude tests, and each time it came back social worker, and I thought, this computer's broken. Social workers take babies away. What is wrong with this? So I read a little bit more about it, and the more I read about it, the more I thought I really would like to become a therapist for first responders and their wives and their children, because that perfectionism, do no wrong, all of the pieces that come with that, stalking of the children almost to an unhealthy level. Who are you with? I need to meet their parents. Where do their parents live? Let me look up their background. It's a lot. So anyways, that's how I got here. I never intended to open a mental health and substance abuse inpatient center. That became my path. And it was a very clear path that's where we ended up, because there is a huge gap in the entire nation. First off, in mental health in general.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks that you can fix mental health by either, if it's severe, you end up in a psychiatric hospital for 3 days with a gallon baggie of medications and rolled out the door, or you are going to a therapist's office once a week for 50 minutes. Well, where's the middle part of that?
Thank you.
So there is no middle.
That's right.
So we created the middle.
Yes.
And it was so needed. I'm just so glad we're doing this, because it is so needed, and it's a huge gap in the nation. And we're doing it well. I'm very proud to say too, we have the most first responders employed at Windmill than any other center across Texas.
Wow.
We are not the 30-day, like I said, turn and burn. It is based upon how long do you need to be with us. And we do deal with a lot of safety sensitive positions, because they could do the public harm. And we know when they're ready to go, because we're very good at what we do. And honestly, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. Erica, me, we've got such talented people with us that even when they can't see what they need to work on, we can see it. And when it's time to do the nudge, we do the nudge.
Yes.
So.
Yes. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I got a couple of questions. First one's for Erica. How long did it take you to get through the schooling once you committed that this is what I wanted to do?
I think about this. So if you put this in context, mine probably took a little bit longer initially, just because my associate's degree was like from 1989, and it was in criminal justice. So I knew how to motherfucker people to the ground. I knew how to handcuff, and I knew how to shoot. Right. So when I made the decision to start working on what I do now, and I went to go sign up for starting the work for a bachelor's degree, I was told that there were several classes that I was going to re-need. Federal government had changed just a little. I had to retake some basic courses, but once I got that out of the way, of course, 2 years for the bachelor's degree. And because I was so determined to do this, I was basically in school 7 days a week. There wasn't a day where I wasn't not doing assignments or, in a class. And so I ended up getting
direct and determined with getting this done as quick as possible then. Yeah.
I got a funny story for you. I'll tell you here in just a little bit.
Nope,
but
go right ahead with it. We always like to laugh.
Funny stories are great, right? So because of that dedication to helping, I'm not the smartest cookie out there by any stretch of the imagination, but I will work until I bleed to help another human, find their way into recovery. Yeah. So I ended up getting what's called advanced standing. So instead of my master's degree taking 2 years, Shannon, 3, it took me 18 months. I was in school again full time, but I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and I was willing to do whatever it took to start doing it as soon as I possibly could. So total, you're not, if you don't count the associate's degree, the total was, I can't do math, 3.5, 4 years, something like that.
I just call it Covington City School math. So
the normal route, if you do 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of master's, and 2 years of clinicals, takes about 9 years to become an LCSW. Yeah,
I didn't include the clinical in there as well. You've got lots and lots and lots of hours where you're working under supervision. So. But the funny story, it was actually when I was working on my bachelor's degree, and I was taking a course where you basically had to identify a mental health disorder, create a client around it, and then produce your treatment plan, what you're going to do with that client. And so we had to do those every week. And so every week I would do mine and I would turn it in. And this was an old school professor, so everything was handwritten. And she laid my paper down on my desk, and she said, Erica, not all of your clients are going to be cops and firefighters. And I said,
the hell
mine are. Mine are. And
Fuck they
of
are.
course, when I first started working at the last treatment center, where I was really able to focus on work with veterans and first responders, I sent her a copy of my bio.
Nice. Nice. It's just like me when there's you'll never need algebra outside this classroom. Bullshit. Go be a
little bit of prop, but I just thought that, not all of your clients are going to be veterans and cops or firefighters and cops. And I thought, well, maybe
awesome.
Yours aren't, but mine are.
So Shannon, about the same path then? About the
it's a very different path, because I undergrad in business, worked in business for a while, and then life. We don't grow up and know what we want, really, and most of us, at least I didn't, until I was around 30. And so then
50s, I'm thinking 50s.
Yeah, 30s if you're lucky, right? So I went back, got my master's in 3 years, and then did my 2 years of clinicals. So yeah, it's not fast. So it takes a while. It takes a lot of dedication, and it's a lot of learning, a lot.
Yeah.
And it requires a strong will. Both of you have a strong will. I suspect that's inarguable.
Yes.
So yeah. Thinking much more about the family part of your treatment and the alcohol part of the treatment model. When you've got somebody, man or woman, any age, it doesn't matter, who's got kids, they're a parent. They come to you and stay for an extended period of time. I just kept thinking about it, thinking, at some point in that process, they would have to come visit the parent, right? So, I would imagine there's a lot of direct involvement in the recovery process with children. True?
Depends the age. So yes, we do. We actually employ Casey Arriaga, and he just wrote his third book, Mommy's Getting Sober. There's one called Daddy's Getting Sober. And he wrote the Family Survival Guide on how to manage mental health or substance abuse as a family member. So we involve them and teach the family member, depending upon the age of the child, what to do, what to say, when to engage them. We teach them all of those skills. And then we engage the children in treatment when it's appropriate. But a lot of people come from out of state because of the services we provide. So a lot of times they can't show up to visitation on every Sunday. So we'll do FaceTime. If people have younger children, they're allowed to do FaceTime with their kids much more often, because we don't want to create another problem with the child. Think a lot of times when mom or dad are away, they think it's their fault. So we don't want them to, we don't want to create another problem there. So yes, we engage the family. We do family counseling. We do an individual family group. So the clients are not in the room. This is just for family. Then after they go home, family members still continue to join. We have alumni family members on our Zoom meetings every Saturday, some that have been with us for 5 years, another for 2 years. They all bond together and they help the newer family members get through. It's really impactful and quite amazing to see that.
That is beautiful to hear. That's exactly how you want it to work. I mean, when you drew it up on paper, you'd think maybe this would happen, and then it does. And then it's like, wow, that is the coolest thing in the world, to watch those people work with each other. And you can just observe the impact that they're having with each other. It's just immeasurable. That's awesome.
Can you guys see this? I love when Dr. David gets jacked, and he's getting jacked right now.
To turn a different corner, I was also real interested in what you said on the podcast, Erica, about what happens after law enforcement folks, first responders in general, retire. And I was really struck by listening to all that you had to say with Turk. The word that just kept coming up in my mind as I listened was neglect. Like you leave the profession and you're instantly neglected, dismissed.
So it's interesting because we talk about, how much current public opinion, how damaging that is, and certain political affiliations and policies and dogma and mantras and all that good stuff. But we're also eating each other up from the inside out.
Yes.
I honestly believe there's more damage creating that is created culturally.
Yes.
Within our ranks than anything that citizens or politicians can do or impact us with.
Right.
I literally had my world ripped out from under me. And so I've had some conversations over the years where I've had people question that. Well, you must have not been a very good officer. Okay, I was Officer of the Year for the 5th largest county in the state of Texas. 4 years later, I was homeless because of my unprocessed trauma that had never been dealt with and the alcohol. So this had nothing to do with I wasn't competent. Clearly, my colleagues and my superiors very much viewed me as competent until the cracks started to show. Until the cracks of that competence, until the cracks of being willing to be on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, being willing to get called out in the middle of the night if there was a kid that was hurt. I wasn't that person that was like, well, I'll see the report when I get in the morning. My officers were instructed, if you take a call where a child has been injured and abuse is suspected, you call me and I come out. So I was burning the candle at both ends. Yes. I was giving everything that I had. I was literally putting my family, my children, my husband off to the side for this career and this passion that I had. And they loved that right up until the cracks started to show.
Yeah.
And then it was almost like, how quickly can we get rid of the problem?
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
How much work and how much training and how much passion and dedication you had for the job, but they never think that when we start to struggle, what's wrong.
Yeah, and I can which is crazy to me.
No, well, but we're I think we're all in agreement here. It's absolutely insane. You get someone that's there, that's trained, and now you're starting to have a problem. Now suddenly you're damaged goods. Oh, you got to get the fuck out. I mean, you can hit the road, Jack. I mean, we can't have you around here anymore. So instead of fixing the problem and trying to retain that person and try and unfuck them, now let's just get rid of them.
No, and here's the irony. I don't know about you guys. I'm sure that you've had similar. I've worked with officers that really didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit about the job. They didn't give a shit about the community. They didn't give a shit about the things that we're supposed to give a shit about. So the first responders that really do give a shit, the ones that actually make a difference in their communities, they're not just driving for dollars and earning a paycheck.
Right.
Those are the ones that are most at risk for needing that additional support, because we are out there pushing boundaries and doing things outside of just what the expectation is to help the people that we're serving.
I think that sometimes maybe, once these things happen, the department looks at you. I've seen it happen. And you're a liability now. Get away. No. We don't need the liability. But then even friends of the officers will push away because they're afraid. Oh my gosh, is is this catching? Am I going to catch this too?
Yes.
And it's hard for them to watch.
Yes.
Because it's hitting so close to home that, and no offense, but denial occurs on a level with police officers more than I see with just about anybody. I mean, I look at their brains and do an EEG on them, and I can see where their emotional availability is. You can see with them, it's pushed all the way down. The neuronal activity in the area of emotional availability is not there. So
That's interesting.
They don't want to get into feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know,
I
I had my own experience with that. You know, I didn't know back then. Clearly, the universe had great plans ahead of me. But, you know, when I was at the department in my earlier years, my primary field training officer, the guy that handed me the keys when I was getting that first call, we used to laugh about it because, ironically enough, he owned a bar in the same city we copped in, which was a little insane.
How's that work out?
And so it was not uncommon, and we laugh about it. It wasn't uncommon for me to pick up my, and he was also my sergeant on that shift. So once I cleared field training, he was still my sergeant. That I would pick him up. Other officers would he'd be stumbling down the road on the side of the highway, and somebody get on the radio and go, "Somebody come pick up Marin. He's at blah 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 and blah blah blah." And we laughed about it.
Wow.
Looking back, he ended up committing suicide. That was at the very end of my career. That was a part of the complete destruction where the wheels came off. I ended up being assigned to that case, but he ended up committing suicide. We didn't know. I didn't know. I just thought he was choosing to be stupid and drunk on his, time off. And now I understand because I've had my own experience with it. He was an alcoholic.
Yes. He was lost.
And so he ended up getting involved in a felony case involving multiple victims, and I got assigned to that case. And he ended up committing suicide, and my name actually ended up in his suicide letter. Because he felt like somehow he had disappointed me. He knew that I was assigned to the case. I was actually had told the family members, please don't let him know. I knew. I'd had so many other people commit suicide over this case. He was actually number 8 over the years.
Oh my God.
And I knew this individual, and I knew that if he found out I was working the case, he would probably end it. And that's, unfortunately, his wife told him. I'm not blaming her at all.
Right.
She did tell him, and she told him on a Saturday, and he ate his gun on a Monday. So, yeah. That actually happened within about 2 weeks of my own termination. So I was already an alcoholic by then, but when that happened, I lost it completely. It's unfortunate. We're talking about these things now. I think that's the important thing. They weren't talking about these things then.
Right.
We are beginning to talk about them now. That's why things like this, these podcasts are so important, is not only to help our brothers and sisters out there understand just how mental health is not a sign. It's not a sign of weakness.
No.
If anything, it's a sign that you actually care, and that's a strength.
Right.
So helping them to see that and helping them work through their demons, and we work tons of calls, but there are calls that stick with us.
Yes, exactly.
Well, they don't have to.
That's right. Exactly.
But we oftentimes need professional help to be able to get past them.
To lay them down.
I also think that a lot of people think that they're officers, that they think they're damaged goods, and that certainly nobody can help me, and that's not the case. We've seen, Erica and I have seen time and time again that everyone can be helped. Anyone and everyone can be helped, and they can become happy again. A lot of people think that's not even possible. Well, so what if I go and talk to somebody about my problems? I'm not going to feel happiness again, and that's not true. We see it happen all the time. People get well.
Right.
And it's up to us, and I'm talking about the veteran and first responder communities, it's really up to us to normalize and even encourage mental health and receiving assistance with that. like I said, I'm starting to see that change, which is a beautiful thing. There's a lot more work to do. There are still departments that are,
good
you know,
Lord,
they're
yes.
they're no different than mine back when all of my stuff happened. But seeing that culture begin to change because of things like this, where we're talking about it and we're saying, look, receiving mental health, that's not a weakness. That's actually what allows you to stay in the game and stay strong in the game while also being present for yourself, your life, and the lives of your loved ones.
So, Erica, I have a question. This can be for either one of you. So, when you have a first responder in, let's say a police officer comes in, goes through the program, but he's continuing to work. What are the steps that you recommend? Because, you know, that was the problem with me was once I started my therapy and to remind everyone, I started off with Dr. David, but we were working on the problems at hand at the time. And now that I'm with my current therapist, I never thought about staying into the job and the constant re-traumatization and all the new shit that you come into. So when you have an officer that's gone through your program there at the Wellness Ranch, what is some examples of tools that you give them to hang on their tool belt to continue working in law enforcement?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So one of the things that they do learn if they've never had any experience with it before is we have we expose them to multiple self-help programs. So whether that's 12-step programming or smart recovery, but when I'm working with someone, before they discharge, they have an appointment set up with, more often than not, intensive outpatient, which is kind of a step down well, it is. It's not kind of. It's a step down in care from inpatient.
Okay.
But then they also complete that program with their first appointment with an outpatient therapist. So we do talk to them about the importance of aftercare resources. Treatment centers, I don't care how great the treatment center is, we're not a one-stop shop. You don't come in and get fixed and everything is great. You come in,
Right.
you get stable,
Right.
and you get the tools that you need, but then there's that shaky period where you're still trying to, figure out, using the tools when you're back on your home ground.
Right.
And we want to make sure that they have that support. And then, of course, we also impress on them the importance of, if they're struggling with addiction, of being a part of either a 12-step program, Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, something like that. We hook them up with sponsors while they're in treatment. Some of them choose
mentors.
Mentors, I like
or
that.
mentors. Or mentors. Like in the Smart Recovery program, we have the mentors. So we absolutely talk to each and every client about the importance of continuing to work on their mental health. I've been in recovery for 10 years. I still go to AA meetings. I have a sponsor. I work my steps. I read that big book, not just because I'm at work and working with clients, but I read it for my own recovery as well. And so that allows me to maintain the progress that I made in the last place that I was in.
Yeah.
Well, and the people that come in, they're walking out with so many tools. So if something comes up again where they've maybe learned different types of modalities and they've learned how to do some parts work, which is a whole thing in itself.
Yes.
Or they've learned how to do CBT therapy if something's starting to bother them, or they start to lay their head on the pillow at night and we've taught them, okay, if it's still there, is there a resentment there? Here are the tools that you work through right here, this workbook right here.
Oh, awesome.
If you still can't let it go, then you're going to try this. So they're leaving with so many tools so that they know what to do so they're not blindsided again.
Yes. Very good.
Fantastic. So have you had any officers that's been through the program that's been discharged, for lack of a better term, come back, kind of like for a refresh? That's for either one of you.
So we, not so much as we do, of course, you're talking about the field of mental health and addiction. So you do have people that, just like me, I required multiple treatment attempts. But, what we find is when it's not because they didn't get what they needed out of the program.
Yeah.
It's because they went home and didn't use the tools that they learned
They didn't do
from
Or-
the program.
Yeah.
And that was my situation. I relapsed after treatment center 1, 2, and 3. Every one of those treatment centers gave me what I needed, but I'd go home and I wouldn't use any of it.
Right.
Or let's say they went ahead and talked about the trauma that they experienced on duty,
Yes.
but they have the same negative cognition attached to an event
Right.
that was prior to that they
Yes.
were not willing to let go of yet.
Right.
So if we don't attach that same negative cognition and address it, which is often traumas on the door of the amygdala and the brain, and walk that over to that hippocampus, then there's going to be some trouble down the road. So some people are only willing to let go, and cops especially, little bits at a time.
That's right.
Can I trust this lady? Can
there
we
you go.
do this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm willing to do this much, and then we've got to do the last bit. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm guilty as hell of that one, Shannon.
Now, what is beautiful about the clients that discharge our program and end up relapsing, they end up coming back to Windmill. It's not like they have to. We don't offer them some kind of financial incentive. They choose to come back to Windmill because they recognize that what they need is within that program.
Fantastic.
So oftentimes what will happen when this takes place is they end up experiencing what we call the gift of desperation. They go out there, they try to live their life without using the tools they've learned while they're in treatment. They learn that that's not viable. They end up relapsing, and they realize, I need to do this right this time. I need to talk about that shit that I was holding close to my vest. I need to talk about the things that I've previously been, not even with my therapist, like it's none of their business. Okay, well, maybe I need to make it their business because this stuff is still eating my lunch. And they come back in with that gift of desperation. And when that happens, it's a beautiful thing because they then begin to open up and talk about the things that they need to talk about. And that was my experience. I didn't talk about some of this shit the first 3 times that I was in treatment. And that was my mindset, was like, it's none of this person's business. They're not going to be able to handle it. I don't trust this person. And that's one of the beautiful things about Windmill is they come in and we have a clinical team that is very adept at not just earning, but gaining and honoring the trust that is given to us by clients.
Right. But some of what you just said is partially true, is that if you're a therapist that's not clued in to what we do in public safety, and I've actually had I had some stories shared with me that where, the first responders started getting into the nitty gritty, and the therapist sitting there with their jaw on their chest, eyes again, they're like,
Yeah.
they
I
start traumatizing the therapist. Go ahead.
I had it happen. The first treatment facility that I was in, they didn't even, they didn't have law enforcement or first responder tracks by then. So I got put in with the business track.
Whoops.
So I'm sitting in a room with a bunch of people that wear, suits and ties for work. And, but he was also my individual therapist. So he asked me, he said, because I kept telling him, like, there was I don't want to talk to you about this stuff, right? I'm not ready. And he said, well, just give me one story. And I remember thinking to myself, sitting in that room that day, I'm like, let's see what you got, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got. So I gave him one case.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, we, in law enforcement, right, we learned how to study body language. And the whole time I'm telling his story, this guy is steepling me, which is pissing me off because this means I'm better than you.
Mm-hmm.
This means I'm in control. I'm in at the end, and that didn't resonate very well with me. But I told the story, and I'll never forget. He took his glasses off. He's rubbing and I can see his wheels are spinning. And the only thing he could come up with was, "Well, that's unfortunate." And I thought, I'm not telling you another motherfucking thing.
Thanks, I feel better.
We are done.
Yeah.
We are done. So I do believe it is, there are a lot of places out there that have first responder tracks where maybe, and please don't misunderstand me, but I've experienced this firsthand where clinicians go and they take a little bit of extra training on how to, handle people like us, and now all of a sudden they're qualified to treat us for trauma and addiction and the things that we experience on the job. And that's one of the things that I love about Windmill is we have people that actually have had, I'm one of them, I've had boots on the ground. I know these experiences not just from a textbook or classroom description. I've lived them myself.
Right.
And I think that's so critical. It's like when, the new client comes in and they look around in my session room and they see things that are familiar to them. Shannon fussed at me the other day. She walked into my office and I have a hatchet that was made by a former client. They made a hatchet for me and they gave it to me. And I love that damn thing, right? It's like it's not really a hatchet. It's a Native American tomahawk. But, those are very common types of things in my room because I want them to walk in and I want them to understand that that's almost an immediate way to communicate. I do understand your culture, and I've had some shared experiences.
We don't have any ARs up on the wall with
no ARs.
You don't have it crisscrossed,
It is firmly behind my desk, but yeah.
I have to set a limit somewhere.
Oh, come on, Shannon. Goals. These are goals.
Look, Shannon struggles sometimes with me because limits are not my specialty. But, it's the whole idea of setting up this environment where they can come in and feel comfortable. Yeah. I've been that person that's sitting in a therapist room and they've got beautiful floral prints on their walls, and I don't really give a fuck about any of that. It makes me uncomfortable. But if I can walk in and I can see that the person that I'm supposed to be telling my stuff to really does understand, that resonates.
Yeah.
So, we've spoken here on the Shield Within about early therapy. So is that something that you're doing down there in Texas, which is when these people are going through the police academy? Are you affiliating them with a therapist then, or do you strongly recommend that they get on track with one at that time? Is that something that you guys are looking into down there?
I don't know anything about that. My husband's on the retired side of things. Honestly, I know this sounds strange, but I really wish they do an EEG on everybody that plans on becoming a police officer with that baseline. If you have a baseline, you can see if there's already PTSD there, and you suggest that they work on that, come on back, take a few psychometrics, and then start off their career in a so that they're not creating complex trauma.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And this is progress, not perfection, right? We've made huge leaps and strides, especially, I would say, in the last 5 to 10 years. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done. I cannot tell you how many times I've offered to come into police academies and tell my story as more of a cautionary tale and to emphasize the importance of mental health.
Right.
And I've always been turned down. Now, that being said, I also do go to law enforcement conferences where I tell my story. And so I'm able to get that in.
Right.
That's the earliest entry I've been able to make is through the conferences. We still have a lot of the old guard out there that still has the suck it up buttercup mentality that's been killing us for decades. That is beginning to change. And so I firmly believe that if we can get the message out about not just the importance of mental health and mental health services, but availability and normalizing, my God, you're putting humans in these inhuman experiences over and over and over again, and then you're bitching because it affects their humanity. Well, no shit.
And then they quit.
So, make it to where it is normal. It is not a stigma. It's perfectly acceptable for an officer to say, you know what, I'm really struggling with that call last night, and I think I need to do some work around this to help me get through it. I'm beginning to see that change. We've got a lot more work to do in that area, but these younger officers that are coming in now, if we can get them at ground level to understand this, then in another 15 years or so, they will be the old guard, and they will be the ones writing those policies for the city, writing those policies for the police department that will serve to normalize and encourage mental health and mental health assistance.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
part of trauma is talking about it.
Yes.
If Erica had just had somebody after that first event to talk to somebody about it, process those events. If you do that early on, it doesn't need to turn into trauma, PTSD.
Right.
It's very simple.
Yes.
Well, and that was our position was, go do that that assessment, get on their books, and just do like a 15-minute or 30-minute check-in once a year. Because here in Ohio, if I'm fucked up and I need to get in to see you, how long would it take me, David? 3 weeks to get into you before you finally had
probably
cancellation?
be longer than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
6 or 8.
Yeah.
6 or 8 weeks.
So think about that. 6 or 8 weeks.
It says something when the leadership in Ohio has to call me.
Yes.
Oh, I'm totally intrigued.
5 years ago to send the people they love out of state for help. I mean, it's like there's something going on that's not great,
Yeah, exactly.
So, Shannon, let's say I'm fucked up and I want to come down. Mm-hmm. So how long is the program?
So it depends. It really depends on what you need.
On the individual.
We do not want you to leave if you're half baked and still fucked up, because you could cause. So
let me tell you how fucked up Mark the Cop was. I went down and got the stellate ganglion block. David gave me the PCL5 test on the way down. I scored a 60?
Something.
Yeah, 60 something. So we needed that before I got the jab done. So that's where I was on the way down. So let's say I didn't get the stellate ganglion block done for 2 rounds when I got that done, David. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming down to you guys. So I'm 64, 62, something. I'm a 64 and a PCL5. What are your recommendations for Mark the Cop with that diagnosis?
I would say get cozy with us for about 60 days, and we honestly reassess every week. Not only that, we know if you're ready or not, and that's based upon a lot of different factors.
Okay.
First, your behavior, what your clinician is saying, the assessments, the battery of assessments you take each week, because I know if you're faking good just by looking at the assessments, because I have so much data. I know where Mark the Cop should be with PTSD at week 4, and if his stress level and anxiety higher are level than what they're supposed to be, then Mark the Cop's going to need to stay longer than the 60 days.
Okay.
Also, I'm looking at your EEG and your progress on your EEG, and you can't fake that because it's an objective measure.
That's awesome.
So that way I can say he's faking good, or you know what, this is as far as Mark the Cop is going to be able to get with us right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to tell you still have more work to do. The prognosis is fair. Here's our number. Call us when you're ready to do the rest of the work.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Well done. Well put. It's an individual-based model. And you can't tell somebody in the first phone call, yes, you'll get here on this date and you'll be done on this date. No, can't do that.
So very, very different from any other treatment facility that I worked in where it was exactly that. If you were still fucked up at day 30 or day 45, but it was day 30 or day 45, here's your shit, and thanks a lot for coming to see us, and let us know how you do. Mm-hmm. And
we can't do that.
That's not because Shannon realizes, Windmill realized, these are lives are at stake. You can't cookie cutter treatment.
Yes.
And you can't cookie cutter progress. So it is highly individualized. And a lot of, we're there to provide all of that information, but the bulk of the work is really on the person as they're coming in. Are they willing? Are they at a point where they're willing and ready to talk about these things that have been eating their lunch? So if I have somebody that has been in for 60 days, but based on the data that Shannon's talking about and my assessment in session and viewing them and their behaviors and how they're thinking, if I'm still seeing that there are unresolved issues, it's not going to be a successful completion. And I'm going to recommend an extension because, nobody wants to go into treatment multiple times.
Right.
You want to come in and get what you need so that you can go back home to live in your life. But we're not. Go ahead.
Yeah, but not only that, here's the thing. What I kept seeing, it was really troubling to me, is there would be the 30-day, that person thought they did well, right? Because these are the professionals. They'd go home, they wouldn't do well, and then they think they're the ones with the problem.
Right.
And no, that's not the case. You never got the treatment that you needed.
Thank you.
In all reality, we don't even start opening trauma until day 30 because the brain can't even emotionally regulate until that moment in time. You have not built the trust with that person and the safe environment to start opening that box. And when you start opening that box, you better be able to go in all the way and make it to the other side.
Oh, yes.
And we have to be there to watch and make sure that we're getting to the other side in a safe manner. And there's not just one trauma technique that works for all the cops, or this is one trauma technique. No, there are multiple, and we need to decide which one is going to be best for you. Right. Now, that's based upon some assessments sometimes. You know, a lot of people will just throw EMDR at the wall, but have they really sat with that person to do that dissociative experience scale to make sure that they understand that assessment, that they're answering it correctly so that we don't do more harm? There's so many other trauma techniques that are very good that don't do harm, and you have to do it at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's.
I love watching the cameras here. Everybody's like, yep, checkbox, yes. I'm sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, that's all. It's just, that's all there is to it. We've got to do it, but we've got to do it the right way.
Right. One of the things that I love about all that you're saying, Shannon, is everything in your program is built on being thorough. Mm-hmm. You don't leave any stone unturned.
No.
You look at the person's entire existence, not just their law enforcement or their work history, their family history, their drug and alcohol history. You're looking at the entire person and understanding in a very practical way that getting treatment outcomes depends on seeing the entire person, not just one segment of the person. I love that.
Yeah.
It does. We even look at genograms. So let's look at mom and dad. Let's look at grandma and grandpa. Let's look at siblings. Let's see if there's mental health above. Let's look if there's any addiction. Was there any abuse or neglect? And I can tell you, if you give me 2 pieces to that, I can do the pattern on the entire family system going back up the tree and down the tree.
Yep.
Because patterns follow each other.
That's right.
And there is a way now to break those patterns when it's acceptable now to seek the help. When you get that help, you change those generational patterns for good.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So you end up benefiting many, many people that you're never going to see in your office by doing the treatment on just one person.
Yep. So science says you can either infect or affect another 3 people on average. When they leave Windmill, they're affecting. Before they come in, they're infecting. So the multiplier factor is huge.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. Awesome.
Let's change gears real quick.
Cool.
How I even created I don't want to say a relationship, Erica. You know, I just started stealing your memes. She's the administrator of Shadows Behind the Badge, right?
Shadows Up the Badge.
Shadows of the Badge. And you guys are in Texas, we're in Ohio. And ironically enough, you know, Eric and I texted a little bit before we set up to the show. And I texted her the other morning. I'm like, oh, yeah, got it. I went, oh, fuck. It's 5:30 my time, so it's 4:30 their time. So I'm like immediately apologizing. She's like, nah, I'm already up.
She's awake. I can tell you that.
I'm like, does this person ever sleep? Because
no. She's on site at 5:30 in the morning, y'all. She's insane.
So where I was going with that is it, you know, we have our group. We have our chat group that we have here at the Shield Within, where we kind of do like a daily check-in and all that. And these guys all giving me shit. They're like, stop fucking texting us before 6 o'clock in the morning. So I have a limit to when I can start talking to people. But even in retirement, I'm quickly approaching 3 years out. I'm still not sleeping, and that's something that I need to work on personally as an individual. Yeah. But the kind of where I'm going with that is that, you know, developing that, and the question for you, Erica, is that something that you're working on individually, is trying to get to sleep more without?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So we have, again, numerous modalities that we use at Windmill. And, it's absolutely a critical part of that care. I'm just like anybody else. You work night shift enough, your circadian rhythms are jacked. Your sleep-wake cycle gets turned completely on its ears.
Yeah.
So I do a lot better than I used to because I've had lots of therapy. And of course, I use my tools. That being said, sleep is absolutely critical to mental health. If you're not getting enough sleep,
Right.
you're not going to be healthy. You're not going to be firing on all cylinders. And so I'm going to kind of turn this over to Shannon because she's super excited to talk about that little machine that's behind her. And I want to make sure that she's got time to do that.
Go.
So
I'm in my home office, but I have one of these in my home. That thing back there it's a huge magnet. But what we're able to do when you've done shift work, you're just really messed up. And our bodies were beautifully made. You're supposed to get that blue light in the morning. And when you get that, it tells your pineal gland in your brain 12 and a half hours later to dump your natural melatonin in your body. And now we're getting artificial blue light all day from our screens, devices. Then you throw shift work in there. That sleep is completely jammed up. So one of the first things we need is we start working on a Windmill is sleep. I'm so crazy. I had to buy doctor's choice mattresses because I used to run these facilities and they wouldn't, the two things they'd complain about was the mattress and the food. And I said, guys, that's an easy fix. That's a real easy fix. So, this little powerful magnet behind me is able to restore brain balance. And
Really?
So
how does it work?
So, first I'm doing an EEG to see what else might be broken or out of alignment. And then we take the magnet and place it on your head, and you can't even feel it. And we put your neurons back to where they function at its best. So in the EEG, I can see where your brain runs well and where it's not operating well. And we get those neurons to fire at the same electrical rate you already make. Your body, when you take in glucose, is making electrical energy in your brain. A lot of people don't know that. So I take that same amount of energy at the way your brain runs, apply it in the area where it's not running well, and it starts to balance it. So it helps. It's a strange thing, but I can tell you it helps sleep for 9 out of 10 people and gets them right back on rhythm. That 1 out of 10 person, I can't help, and I still don't know why. Sometimes it can be those conical implants.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I said that one person to be me if I come down. But anyway, go ahead. I'm just making a joke.
Do you have conical implants, lenses in your eyes?
No.
Okay, good. Don't get them unless they have the kind that where you can see blue light through.
Okay.
But I think I can help you.
Yeah, we need to make a trip down there, David.
I can help you with lots of other things with this magnet. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
So I just finished.
I'm totally intrigued right now.
I just finished 20 of those treatments. I'm a firm believer. I don't recommend things for clients unless I've experienced them firsthand.
Right.
And I'd actually had some conversations with Shannon about my struggles with sleep. And because she is the amazing human being that she is, she's, let's get you set up for 20 treatments. I started noticing a difference at about treatment 10. So we're talking 2 weeks.
Wow.
I started noticing a difference. And so at the 20th, yes, I still have some struggles with sleep. I don't know that I will ever fully be normal. And then there's lots and lots of factors that go into that. But I can tell you this, I'm sleeping better now after that 20 treatments than I was before those 20 treatments. It made a huge impact on not just that, but my ability to function and
Absolutely. Yes, during the day. Yeah, your waking time.
It helps anxiety, depression.
Yes.
It helps tinnitus.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It helps a lot of different things. I'm treating a guy right now that's got frontal lobe dementia, and we're
Sounds like Go ahead.
we're keeping his neurons up in balance so that he can enjoy a better quality of life.
Yes.
This is not ECT or anything like that. That's ECT is like taking car batteries to your head. This is just a magnet, and we're just putting your brain back in the balance that it was prior to any PTSD or concussion or injury.
That
I've
is
treated
so
a lot of
Go ahead.
NFL players even.
Really?
Well, and I'll share some of my results. There were areas of my brain, and because of complex trauma, even though I've had all of this psychotherapy and I've had all of this help, there were areas of my brain that were only firing at what, Shannon, 25 to 30%? I was up 85 and 90% after 20 treatments.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's not something that she can manipulate. That's coming directly off of the EEGs, which are monitoring my brain waves, the patterns.
Right. But with all
Huge shift.
Huge, yeah.
Huge.
with all that therapy, all that focus on your own growth and your own changes that come as a result of that contributes to your brain reestablishing some degree of strength.
Mm-hmm.
And as your brain reestablishes a sense of balance and strength, your waking time becomes completely different. Your thinking becomes different. Your emotionality becomes different. Your relationships with other people, your capacity to be a good employee, etc., goes all the way across the board. Sleep is like magic. It makes everything else work. It's a prerequisite, seems to me, for anything else in the organism working is sleep.
You are right. You are right.
Well, yeah, but you got to do that brain dump, and that's what Molly Hall was talking about. She was one of our guests we had on, who's also one of my psychiatrists, was talking about that was her first thing she does is get them to sleep, because you got to dump those toxins that's in the brain to get them sleeping. Then,
but we're also teaching them healthy hygiene habits. I didn't know what the hell sleep hygiene was. What was that, right?
Well, what is it?
So I had to learn what that was. I for me, it was burn the candle at both ends until you need to crash, get up, rinse, and repeat.
Yeah.
And so learning in recovery about the importance of healthy sleep hygiene. I'm a cigarette smoker. Me smoking a half an hour to an hour before I plan on falling asleep is a no-go.
Yeah.
Negatory ghostwriter. It's not going to happen. So I've had to back that up. I'm very particular about the time that I eat, what I eat, what I'm doing in the hour to 2 hours preceding me falling asleep. Those are all really critical. So when we have clients come in that are struggling with their sleep patterns, we're also helping them to learn healthy, holistic ways in which to manage their sleep.
Yeah, so you start preparing to sleep. And we talked about that a few episodes ago is, when do you plan on going to sleep? I'm going to go to bed at 9:30. So, okay, like with me, I can't drink caffeine after 4 o'clock because it really started to affect me as being an old bastard. Stop it, Jeff. It's not 4 o'clock. Well, it is 4 o'clock. Anyway,
it's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock here now.
5 o'clock somewhere, right?
That's right. It's time to drink. Man, no.
Shit.
Pot of coffee.
And he's there showing my pot out there. But it's what David talked about. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, you're fucked tonight.
Well, we take it a step farther. When you're impatient with us, the coffee pot at 2 o'clock, it moves to decaf if you want coffee, because I'm going to get them sleeping. Because you don't know what you're dealing with yet until you can get them sleeping. Everything else is going to be, the score is going to be much higher on everything. Once we get that handled, then we know what to work on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sleep first, then everything else can happen. Yeah. I love it. One more thing, I was also very struck in the podcast, Erica, by, and I don't know that this is necessarily something that happened to you individually, but you described it. It's very common, apparently, when a police person leaves the profession, they get a bottle of Jameson and a gun.
Right.
I just
so fucking
I don't know why I was suddenly just shocked by that statement.
What the fuck?
Jesus.
I mean, it's like what we would really like you to do is go home in about a week or two, commit suicide, and then we'll have some kind of like service for you, and we'll see how unfortunate as a human being you were. I just thought that is the most insane thing I have ever heard in my life. That just blew me away. Here's a gun.
Yeah.
Here's a bottle of bourbon. See you later.
Right. Well, Jeff said
My husband got the gun, the bottle of bourbon, and a bathrobe.
bathrobe.
You know what?
Was he thinking Hawkeye Pierce?
and it's got his uniform and his stripes and everything on the bathrobe.
No,
So he got all three.
So if you look at, you know what you're really alluding to, if you look at the suicide rates,
Yes.
within the first year of somebody leaving one of these career fields, law enforcement particularly, because I'm very familiar with the statistics on that, they're exponential. And so you're taking this person that has been in a high-speed, low-drag environment for, let's just say, 20 years.
Yes.
Or 15 or 30, it really doesn't matter.
Yes.
You're taking that person who has been exposed to trauma both directly and indirectly throughout the duration of their career, in addition to anything they may have dealt with and been exposed to prior to entering that career field, like childhood experiences.
Yes.
And they've, even though it's not very healthy support, you still got your buddies. Well, that was a fucked up cog. Yeah, did you see that old lady and the way she was hanging off that couch? We have that. And then now we're at home and we're alone, or we're at home, but we're alone with our thoughts and our feelings, because we're certainly not going to start talking to our family members at that point about all the shit that we've dealt with.
Right.
So, if we can get people while they're still active,
Yes.
so that they are healthy when they exit the field,
Yes.
then those rates will decrease exponentially. In other words, we're going to have more people that are able to serve their communities, serve their country, retire, and be able to live full lives. It is a blight on law enforcement that we have that many people committing suicide coming out of that career after retirement.
Erica,
and absolutely, one is too many. It disgusts me.
Well, and my father lives down in the Villages in Florida. How you like that? So this is kind of like for both of you. He had a guy move in. They were from Wisconsin, and he's captain, and they were there maybe 6 months and got divorced.
Yep.
So, I mean, you get the suicide rates of retirees, and Erica, in your opinion, or Shannon, either one, how much has the divorce rate gone up, especially after, hell, you've been together for 30 years and living this life, and now, something's happened, and boom, go ahead. Either one. Who wants to go first?
I don't have data on those statistics. Shannon, do you?
No, but I can imagine what it would look like, because, had my husband and I not gone to therapy, then you're with that individual all day long, every day. They're not gone.
Right.
I probably would, had we not gone to therapy, I'm not sure. I think we should also capture the spouse's rate of suicidality, because I think it might be double-edged there. Mm-hmm. But, the loss of identity, too, that comes with who and what you were as an officer, I think in retiring would be, I know it's a big piece. My husband retired and then lost his mother. And, I've seen the impact and toll it's taken on him, and he's married to a therapist, and the good news is, because he's around me and all of these crazy therapists all the time, he says, this is really taking an impact on me. I'm going to need to talk with someone. And that's the good news. Not me. Hell no. Hell no. He drives me nuts.
So let me,
give me a break, man. Go to an appointment.
Yeah.
Ladies, this has absolutely been an honor. The depths I could talk for another 2 hours, honestly. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead, in case someone here in Ohio, tell us how to contact?
Yes, please.
You just look us up on, you can find us on the internet, Windmill Wellness Ranch. There's a phone number there, and our website is windmillwellnessranch.com. And you call day or night, we answer the phone. We're there.
Beautiful. And even though we're in Ohio, you're available to anybody that calls you from anywhere. And they
absolutely,
they can access almost literally any part of your program in a virtual online way, and or get things set up so that they can come down and be in-house residential for a while.
Yes.
All those things are optional as long as they start by giving you a call.
That's all they got to do.
Yeah.
And I know that phone can be very heavy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
the moment you pick up that phone, man.
The hardest part is making that call.
Exactly.
But once you do,
Yeah.
you will be so relieved. I can promise you that.
The hard part's done then. The hard part is making the call. You make the call, and from that point on, it gets easier. A little teeny bit. Not a lot easier, but a little teeny bit easier. And then as the treatment begins and progress and you feel different, you're thinking different, it starts to accelerate. But man, that first call.
It's rough.
It's absolutely mandatory that moment happen. Yeah.
We have some amazing people that work on our admissions team that are absolutely trained and empathetic.
Awesome.
So when those calls come in, when they're able to find it within themselves to make that call, or they've reached a point where they feel like they don't have any other choice, the people working at Windmill through our admissions team are going to walk them through every step. They're going to be there for them until we can get them safely into the treatment facility.
That's beautiful. Awesome. We are so glad we've learned of you. Our friends on Spinning the Gears has brought us in touch with you, which we very much appreciate. And everything you've brought to us today has been incredibly helpful.
Well, wait a minute. I got to admit,
Okay, cool.
that bastard scooped me. No, I'm saying that out of love. But I had set up a phone conversation with Erica. And we had so much shit going on. I think did you think I ghosted you, Erica?
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, you know, I was really loving the memes, and we had a social interaction there,
Right.
and I'm like,
I figured it would happen if it was meant to happen.
Right, this is somebody I would like to get on the show or get to know a little more about, because she has a really great, how do we want to say it, dark humor. The memes on Shadows of the Badge is fucking hilarious, and some of the stuff I shamefully poach and repost on the Shield Within.
I steal your shit too, so it's mutual.
Well, thank you very much. That's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
But, so then, I saw where Turk had reached out and did the interview, and I tell you what, the first 30 minutes of that, I was hook, line, and sinker, man. It had my full undivided attention. And these 2 episodes, I can't believe it's zipped by as quick as what it had. Yeah. And I really think that you're going to see kind of an increase, especially from us here in Ohio. And it's, I don't want to say it's refreshing, Shannon, but I kind of knew that we're not as good as we can be in Ohio. And it's nothing negative, but I think we have a lot of building to do. I appreciate the fact that our people have gone down there. I don't know who these people are. You said there were some state senators, but I'm glad that they went down. I'm glad they're at least looking at it.
Yeah.
I've learned so much, especially in this last hour. It's like I said, I could keep talking, and hopefully let's do this again sometime. What do you think? You guys
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm down. I'm in.
Fantastic. Well, Mr. Hat, you've been unusually quiet again.
Man, that's good stuff.
Good.
It's just nice to hear the passion that other people have for the healing of first responders, anybody that needs to help, and to be, for Erica to be open and vulnerable like that, tell that story. The more people hear the story from those boots on the ground, as they say, is very, and I found out in my healing as well, when people don't realize, wow, you are fucked up. I didn't realize you were fucked up,
You're so fucked.
And when you can be vulnerable to somebody and look them in the eye and say, yeah, I had this and this and this and this in my life, and here I am now. And they're like, wow. I mean, because I thought I was the only one fucked up like everybody else.
One of the most beautiful things I've ever heard throughout my entire journey is me starting to talk about these pieces that contributed and led to this culmination of the highlight of me struggling, and for me to tell a piece of that story, or from someone else to tell me a piece of their story, and to hear the words, "Me too."
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And just sitting here with just us at the table here, I feel some healing in just this conversation, and I had little to do with it. And so I like coming in here for 2 hours. I get 2 hours of free therapy. And, yeah. So, and I know people that listen to this do the same. So I'm just blessed to be here.
Yeah. Awesome, bro.
Well, at least, we can and we do recover.
Melanie,
That's the bottom line.
anything
That's
for
right.
the good and order?
There's always light.
No. She's backed away from the microphone. She's like, no, I'm not going to talk. David, wrap us up.
Thank you very much, Erica and Shannon, for sharing your personal stories, your professional resources, and we will be angling people towards your phone number as often as we can. Thank you very much.
I
We look
appreciate
forward to
that.
talking with you again. Thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cue the music,
Good afternoon.
Donnie.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.